A car drove into people at a Christmas market in the eastern German city of Magdeburg on Friday. Officials said they suspected it was an attack and that people were injured, but it was not immediately clear how many were harmed.
Komme ich hinter der Kirche rum? Danke. In die Richtung geht's. Geht's.
Europe could deploy about 100,000 troops to Ukraine as peacekeepers. The so-called deterrent force could be formed by a coalition of 5 to 8 countries, a Ukrainian official told Reuters on condition of anonymity. Analysts and officials are reported to be giving different estimates of the size of such a force, stressing that much will depend on its specific mission. It is believed that about 40,000 European troops would be appropriate. According to Austrian military expert Franz Stefan Gadi, now at the International Institute for Strategic Studies under a rotation scheme where units prepare for deployment and recover after deployment, a mission could involve about 100,000 troops. This will certainly stretch European ground forces considerably, he noted. In addition, he stressed that in such a case, European countries would have to reduce other missions, in particular, peacekeeping in the Balkans. Italian Defense Minister Guido Crosetto has said peacekeepers should operate under the auspices of the United Nations. But other officials say that would give Russia, a permanent member of the UN Security Council, too much influence. The media also says Europe will have to persuade the United States to participate, at least in intelligence and other operational support. Earlier, the former advisor to the US Secretary of State noted that every country that is a member of NATO can send peacekeepers to Ukraine without permission. Former US Secretary of State advisor Matthew Bryza said that each NATO country can send its peacekeeping troops to Ukraine without permission from the entire alliance. It is quite possible that any of these countries could offer their peacekeeping forces outside NATO. However, it is not entirely clear to me whether some kind of umbrella organization or special mandate is needed for this. NATO members can act independently, including deploying their peacekeeping forces, since they will definitely not be able to obtain a mandate from the UN Security Council without Russia's consent. And Russia will obviously never agree to NATO members sending their peacekeepers to Ukrainian territory. But this is not the problem, he said. According to the diplomat, only Ukraine should decide and give permission for the deployment of peacekeeping forces on its own territory. Also, each NATO country has the sovereign right to deploy its own peacekeepers without the approval of the UN and the alliance. British Defence Secretary John Healey arrived in Ukraine to discuss support for Ukraine and plans for 2025 with Ukrainian Defence Minister Rustem Umerov. He considers the occupiers' plans to seize 4 regions of Ukraine, Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk and Luhansk in 2025, a sign of weakness. After all, in the past, according to him, Russia has already announced the seizure of these regions. Russians believed that their invasion would last a week, and here you are, a country that is still fighting for over 1,000 days, and Putin has taken a strategic step back in Syria. This is a signal to any country that looks to Russia as some kind of guarantor, as a strategic ally, and as a security ally. When the stakes are highest, Putin just walks out, the UK defence chief told NV. He also said Britain was continuing to step up its supply of naval drones, air defence systems and artillery to Ukraine. In 2025, for example, London wants to step up its support through defence industry cooperation, coordination of international allies and training, he said. Ukraine's allies must not only strengthen the Ukrainian armed forces, Healey said, but also increase pressure on Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin to put him in a weaker position. And it is up to Ukraine to decide when to stop fighting and negotiate with Russia, he said. And we are also prepared to step up the sanctions and the pressure that we are prepared to put on Putin and the people responsible for circumventing the sanctions, on the fleets of ships that help to avoid international condemnation, and the embargo on oil and gas, the British Defence Secretary stressed. British Defence Secretary has opened the door to sending British troops to Ukraine to help train Ukrainian soldiers. He noted that Britain needs to make education better suited to what Ukrainians need. We need to make it easier for Ukrainians to access and work with Ukrainians to help them motivate and mobilize more recruits. Asked if this meant the start of exercises involving British troops in Ukraine, he said, "We will look where we can to respond to what the Ukrainians want. They are fighting." Last year, Grant Shapps, the former Defence Secretary, voiced his support for such a move in an interview with the Sunday Telegraph. Healey is believed to be the first government official to put forward the same proposal. He made the comments as he announced a new £225 million aid package for Ukraine as the country comes under increasing pressure to enter peace talks with Russia. Healey said Kiev should enter the talks from a position of strength, not weakness. He added that Ukraine needs to continue to build its ability to fight and contain Putin. Announcing the support package, he said, nearly 3 years since Putin launched his illegal full-scale invasion. The depth of his miscalculation is clearer than ever as the brave people of Ukraine continue to defy all expectations with their indomitable spirit. But they cannot act alone, which is why the UK will step up our international leadership on Ukraine throughout 2025.